Hello everyone and welcome to the Magnets QRST podcast show. My name is Sid and I will be your host for this evening. I'm not sure if many of you have heard about the book The House of the Scorpion by Nancy Farmer. The story takes place in Mexico and the protagonist in the book is Mateo Alacran. He is a kid who happened to be a clone and who has been disrespected his whole entire life. Mateo's DNA came from a man named El Patron, lord of a country called Opium, a field of poppy fields lying between the United States and what was once called Mexico. When people think or see Mateo, they think of him as a monster. El Patron loves Mateo as himself, but Mateo is himself. In this story, you will experience how he tries to understand his existence, being threatened by a cast of characters, and much, much more. The only way he can survive is by escaping, but a gang of bodyguards surrounds him all the time. Can Mateo escape from the Alacran estate? Well, that's what you'll find out in the book. From my experiences from the book, I find it really interesting how it explains a lot of depth in the story, how it tells different solutions to how the main character finds different ways out of their problems. I'd say Matt is one of those characters where you're interested to hear their point of view, to invest and ask yourself big questions such as, why does everyone think that Matt's a clone? One thing that I like about him is that no matter what he's going through, he doesn't give up. It's like both inspiring and mysterious to observe about. Can you imagine him getting abused or even insulted? If people kept doing bad things to you, obviously you would feel very heartbroken and depressed. But Matt is strong inside of him. A few things I would enjoy a bit better if the chapters were not as stretched out as they are. And what I mean by that is if you're writing an essay or a paragraph, you don't get enough detail of what's the setting of how the story is explaining things. I do have to say, I like how the book introduces new characters and explains a bit more of each of their perspective of what they've been going through. I believe it is important to know not just about the main character, but also how others play a part of the story. Am I right? But other than that, the characters and the plot is just very interesting. One thing that really bothered me is how the people in the book have personal grudges on clones. Without knowing Matt's personality, people judge him and are rude to him just because he is a clone. I mean, Matt was so far being very nice and a genuine person. He didn't do anything wrong, so why bother the guy, right? So that's another question I have in mind. Something interesting I've learned about the author is that she actually grew up on the Arizona-Mexico border. This also proves that this is how she got the main idea for House of the Scorpion. As I said before, the story takes place in Mexico. Nancy Farmer also won the U.S. National Book Award for Young People's Literature for House of the Scorpion. She earned her BA at Reed College at the year 1963 and later studied entomology. So this is some pretty interesting things about the author. I think this book will be very relatable to people who may have experienced abuse or been rude to for no reason. People who enjoy reading true stories will truly appreciate and relish this book. To conclude this podcast, I just want to say, if you ever are gonna read this book, just understand that people can push you back and think they can get away with it. But you got to learn to stand up for yourself and fight back. This is what this book talks about. Well, anyway guys, thank you so much for tuning in on the Magnets QRST podcast show. I hope you will join me on my next episode. Until then, happy reading and don't forget to check out House of the Scorpion.